All right, hello, I'm Alexander Poorvu. I'm here with Nick Capasso, the curator of the Decordova Museum, and I'm going to ask him a few questions for my geometry project on Sol Lewitt. I've heard Sol Lewitt described as a conceptual artist like that.
Yes.
How he was so based off of the idea, and I mean, he really was the first person to do it.
Yeah, in that way. I mean, conceptual art covers a lot of territory. But one of the important things about Sol Lewitt is that he really, really was one of the founders of this movement, this way of thinking about art making in the 1960s. He and a group of other artists all started working this way kind of simultaneously, where the idea became that when you make an artwork, the important thing isn't whether it's a painting or a sculpture or a video or any particular medium. The important thing is the idea that's conveyed. And then you choose your medium. The medium is in service to the idea, not the other way around.
Okay. Then, what his sculptures really remind me of are buildings almost, and what you said about the skyscraper. And that makes me think of him as an architect, but he's an artist.
He's an artist, yeah. They're not architecture, they're sculptures, because architecture is primarily a utilitarian thing. It's something you go inside. It's something that houses something, stores something, protects something. And you can't go inside these sculptures. There's no utility. The only function they have is to exist as artworks and as metaphors, and to get us to feel things and think about things.
And I mean, how did Sol Lewitt's? Because Sol Lewitt's work was groundbreaking at the time, almost.
Yes.
So how did it? And how? If so, how did his work influence artists to come in?
Oh, I think that this whole, Sol Lewitt was really important. I mean, not only, we talked a little bit about his role as a conceptual artist.
Mm-hmm.
So that whole idea that the idea is the primary thing was incredibly influential. The other thing that Sol Lewitt was a founder of, so to speak, is minimalism. Mm-hmm. The idea that you can make sculpture with very simple, reduced, regular, serial forms. And the influence of minimalism over contemporary art, even until now, is huge. I mean, almost all modern sculpture refers back in some way or another to minimalism.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he demand.
The other thing about his minimalism is he not only did he make it with such a regular material, he also made so many things the same way, and I see that kind of as minimalism.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's a really good observation. Part of minimalism, it's not just geometric forms. Mm-hmm. It's systems. Mm-hmm. It's using systems to create things. So the system can be as simple as I'm only going to use this one unit. And I can arrange it any way I want, but this is it. And that's the system. And other artists set systems for themselves that are more complicated. And a lot of contemporary artists now use mathematical systems, computer algorithms, which is a mathematical, or arguably a geometric system, to generate form and help them generate ideas.
Yeah. It's kind of funny that he would limit himself like that, but then by limiting himself, he opened himself up to.
Yeah, well, it's like this is kind of a dumb parallel, but if you think of the poetry form haiku, that's a system, right? It's 5 syllables, 7 syllables, 5 syllables. Really limiting. Can't say much, but it makes you focus, and it makes every word count. Right? It's a similar kind of thing. Yeah, if you set limits, sometimes limits are good. It's good to have rules.
And then also, what do you think Sol Lewitt, if he were alive, or would think about a high school student studying his work for a geometry project?
Oh, he'd love it. He would totally love it. Absolutely. And I bet if he were still alive, you could have gotten an appointment with him. Honestly. He was that kind of guy. He would have said, "Wow, you're doing this for high school? What are you doing?" And then he'd want to know all about your geometry class. And yeah, he'd totally be into this.
That's really cool. Can you think of any geometric techniques that he did use to make his pieces so distinct? Because they look geometric and it's just hard to explain.
Yeah, well, I think that the systems that he used in the sculptures, I think, they're not, the system is pretty simple. I'm using one unit. And then he was pretty intuitive about how he laid it out. And I think in a lot of the works with the blocks, he was trying to evoke different kinds of architecture, whether they're pyramids or mastabas or skyscrapers or barns or tombs. And so they all have a different kind of resonance to it. But I really think that he enjoyed this so much. It's like playing with blocks. That's what he got to do. And then he got to make them huge. I get paid for it. Yeah, what could be better? Well, I'd like to do that.
I'm looking to recreate one of his sculptures and maybe even make my own variation of a Sol Lewitt sculpture.
Mm-hmm.
Is there something essential that cannot be left out of?
Yeah, I think yes. I think that if you look at all these concrete block structures that he did, and he did lots of them, I think that symmetry is important, although not as an absolute rule.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not absolutely symmetrical, things are roughly symmetrical. He didn't do things that were chaotic.
Yeah. I mean, even the tower piece, each side is different, but it is regular and it looks the same.
Right, and it articulates a system of going up steps. So there's an order to that.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, it's not absolutely symmetrical, but it's roughly symmetrical. You know, he wouldn't do something lopsided, let's say. Another thing that's important is if you're actually going to build the thing, is to build it as precisely as you can and make it as beautiful as you can. You know what I mean? Which was important. It's art. It's about beauty, too. It's not just about all this other stuff I've been talking about. It's supposed to look great.
Yeah.
So you don't want to make a sloppy Sol Lewitt. You want to make a clean Sol Lewitt. You want Sol to be proud. But other than that, I'd say it's great because you can let your imagination go nuts. The other thing you want to do if you're actually going to build it is make sure you can build it. Right? I mean, I think that there is a vertical and weight limit to these blocks where you can't just build anymore by stacking them on top of each other without some kind of steel reinforcement on the inside. And he wouldn't do that. It's not part of the system. The system is the block. So you couldn't do this literally 20 stories tall. It would crush itself.
Yeah.
So you can't. What I would say is don't violate physical laws, right? That you would need some other kind of technology to prop it up.
Yes. And
so,
yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to see how he would respond to something like Google SketchUp where you can break the physical laws.
Yeah, right.
He'd have fun with that.
Yeah, he probably would.
Yeah.
That's what drawing's for, because in drawing you don't have to worry about building anything. You can draw whatever you want.
That's true.
And he did.
So, thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm glad you're interested.
Yeah, and after hearing this, I hope my class would like to come to the Decordova Sculpture Park.
You should have him come. If you can arrange it in such a way that I'm available, I'll come out and talk to your class. I'd be happy to.
Sincerely.
Yeah, absolutely. Just let me give you my card so you can contact me, and if we can make this work with your schedule, your class's schedule, and my schedule, we'll definitely do it.